You're watching Wayout TV. Now it's time to catch up with all the news from your establishment with your local.
Hi guys, it's Governor Seb Farley here. Just wanted to leave a message with you to inform you that the gym will be closed this weekend. That's this weekend, the 16th and 17th, the gym will be closed. Residents on C and D wing will get extra gym sessions in their own over 50s gym. Many thanks for your cooperation.
The Eagle has landed.
Society is forever changing. New technologies are constantly evolving. It has never been more important to learn ICT and computing. Speak to your education provider now and start your journey. It could be the key to finding your dream job. Maths at HMP Bedford. Maths makes the world go round, and if you don't have basic math skills, you are at a disadvantage. Estimating costs for jobs, working out how much paint you need, maths is everywhere. So sign up now and get paid to learn.
One of the most popular courses at HMP Bedford is back. Want to be a labourer? We are looking for keen learners who want to work in construction. Complete the course within 3 to 4 weeks and get your CSCS card so you're ready to work when you are released. This qualification lasts you 5 years until you have to renew it. Apply for our new CSCS course now.
Did you know that Wayout TV has a second channel called Way to Learn TV? Way to Learn TV provides you with a learning experience that puts you in charge of your learning. You can study in your own cell with help and support provided by education staff throughout your course study. So if you're looking to top up your learning and skills, you've come to the right place. So if you'd like to take part in any of the courses on offer, please put in a general app into either education or your learning and skills manager. So what are you waiting for? Start your learning journey today.
See yourself as the next Alan Sugar or Richard Branson? Well, up next we have advice and guidance with starting your own business. To set up and run your business, you will need supplies and services. In this section, you will start to identify what you need. Now this could be anything from raw materials and stationery to making sure you have IT support, or even just an electricity supply.
Difficulties with starting your own business is obviously money is always a difficult one.
Yeah.
Starting off slowly is always a good thing. Don't rush in, buy everything at once, get the best equipment.
No.
We started off on a very low budget and just built it up over time.
So my advice to you about sort of collecting new suppliers would be just to do a little bit of research before you sort of go straight in and buy. So don't buy the first product that comes up on your Google search. So I looked around for a few different suppliers. And I have 2 different ones or 2 different locations I can get same products. For example, I can get my product directly on the website or through Amazon. So if one is out of stock, I can always get it from somewhere else. So that's really great just to know if I need an emergency item, I can get it from more than one place. And some of my items I can get from different suppliers. So I searched around for a few different ones before I picked the cheapest, and they do sell in different quantities, for example. So different suppliers might have a minimum order. So it's good to find out what their minimum order is before you get too invested in sort of placing your order and things like that, because if you can't afford to do a minimum order of say 1,000, you want to know that before you've done all your research.
For some of you, working out the supplies and services you need will be quite a big job, and it's important to consider where you can best buy these supplies from, and consider any offers, credit terms and delivery costs which might affect the overall price. And now on Wayout TV, if you're looking for employment upon release, you've come to the right place. It's Jobs Board.
It's time to go over to Way to Learn now with our Level 1 Certificate in Warehousing and Storage.
Did you know that warehouses aren't just about simply storing and stacking products? The improvement of technology over the past 30 years has seen warehouses grow from simple storage buildings to multi-million-pound facilities. With the popularity of online shopping, some Amazon warehouses ship as much as 1 million items a day through the help of robotics and advanced equipment. This equipment helps workers scan products, check stock, and move heavy loads. Technology in the warehouse is constantly improving to meet the growing demands. Warehousing is part of the logistics industry, which involves the processing, handling and packaging, and transportation of all goods. This can include fresh food, car parts, and even iPhones. Incredibly, 1 in 12 people today work in logistics, making it one of the most important industries in the world. After all, without the movement of things like food around the globe, society as we know it would fall apart. Entry into warehouse work usually starts as a warehouse operative. As an operative, your responsibilities depend on the need of the company, but often include moving stock by hand or with equipment, picking items, assembling orders, organising goods for storage and shipment, reporting any damaged items, and ensuring a clean and tidy work area. Let's look at the life of a warehouse operative in the next warehouse in Doncaster.
Hi, my name's Christopher Dunville and I've worked at Next for 2.5 years. My first job at Next when I first started was a furniture picker, working on the furniture department. My job now is a senior team coach. Typical day for me now is organising all the other team coaches on site. I look after all the training requirements, so coordinate all the training on site. The best thing about working for Next now in my current role is getting to see the rewards from people once we've trained them. We see them when they come through the door to start with, and then all the way through to when they're fully trained and moving on to bigger and better things in the warehouse. I would definitely recommend Next to my friends and family. That's one of the reasons why I first started. I got it recommended by my friends and family. It's a hard job, a lot of manual jobs inside the warehouse, but overall a great place to work.
Hi, my name's Simon. I worked at Next in Doncaster for around 8 years now, and my role within the warehouse is dispatch, loading trailers. A typical day at the Doncaster warehouse consists of myself and a partner loading around 800 parts a day. And that consists of bedside tables up to sofa beds. Jobs in the past you've been static and stood still a lot, but whereas at a warehouse job for Next, you're constantly active throughout your shift.
There are plenty of warehouse operative jobs to be found, some permanent, some part-time. Warehouse operatives usually earn above the national minimum wage, with opportunities for progression including forklift operator, team leader, supervisor and warehouse manager positions. The world of warehousing is the lifeblood of the British industry. There has never been a better time to get into warehouse work.
Like you, we're concerned about the fact that almost half of prisoners lose touch with their families while inside. Limited time to make calls means it's often impossible to reach a loved one. And seeing a missed call from the prison leaves family members feeling worried and helpless. We created Prison Voicemail to make it easier to stay in touch with a loved one in prison. With Prison Voicemail, your family can leave a message for a prisoner at any time, even when you're abroad. You just call your Prison Voicemail number and leave the message. It doesn't matter if your loved one is otherwise occupied. They can listen and reply the next time they get to the phone. You'll get a text to let you know they've heard your message and can listen and reply at a time that's convenient for you. It reduces stress and worry for both sides and means you can stay in closer contact. In fact, 83% of prisoners we asked told us it makes their time inside easier. The good thing is, once your account is set up, voicemails are instantly available at the other end. Unlike letters and emails, they don't require any staff to pass them on. So rather than waiting 5 days for a letter to arrive, you could be swapping 5 voicemails every day. We also have an app which lets you record, send and receive voicemails. You can instantly see the last time the prisoner checked their voicemail. You can record messages at any time and see when the message was received. Our app will even tell you when the prisoner has called their voicemail from a new prison. And you can save and re-listen to favourite messages. It's a quick and convenient way to stay connected to the person you care about. You can sign up for the services on our website, prisonvoicemail.com. Provide your details and details about the prisoner. You'll immediately receive your own Prison Voicemail landline number. You can call it straight away and leave your first message. We will ask the prison to add the voicemail number to the prisoner's approved numbers list, and they will inform the prisoner how to use it. The prisoner then calls the same number from any phone in the prison, listens to your message, and can leave a reply at the end. Because there are no notifications, the prisoner needs to get into the habit of checking every day. If there's no message waiting, they get a busy tone and won't use any of their phone credit, and the phone isn't blocked from making another call. If they do have messages, the phone company charges them the cost of a landline call while they're on the phone. But that's still half the price of them calling your mobile. So how much does it cost you? We're a small social venture, so we've tried to keep it as affordable as possible. You can choose a monthly subscription, starting from just £5 a month, or pay as you go. Please see our website for more details. Visit prisonvoicemail.com to sign up and leave your first message in minutes.
Wherever I go, if I see any of his friends, I get to leave a little voicemail for him. I pass the phone around if there's a few of us, and then he gets a little message from all of his friends and family.
I don't know what I've done without it. I now am looking after my daughter's 3 little baby children, and obviously there's emergencies and different things, and I wanted to know all the time.
He could leave his son a message and his son could leave him, because he's only 5. It was very good, and the little lad, he loved talking and leaving a message, because he'd say, Daddy left me a message again, so it was very exciting for him as well.
Prison Voicemail. Your voice matters.
Next up on Wayout TV is more from the geniuses at TED.
Before I start, I have a confession, and that is that I actually had a PowerPoint presented and ready to present to you, but I've scrapped it last minute because that is not my style. I just watch a lot of TED Talks. I used to have a ritual where every morning I would watch a TED Talk, and I always see them clicking the thingy, so I thought, I'm going to come and click it too, but I've dashed that out. So I'm going to start by giving you guys a poem, and this poem is an articulation of my story, so I hope it translates. Have you ever seen the eyes on a butterfly's wings? Deep like the gaze of a glorified king, for they can overwrite, they will overwhelm, eternal like they appear from another realm, another world, another life. Yes, another life. I too have known another life, another state. I am a walking contradiction. I should have shared another fate. I know a butterfly's fame, but felt the caterpillar's pain. My cocoon was love. But who will love the caterpillar? Drug dealer. Who will love the caterpillar? Gang member. Who will love the caterpillar? No, they can only love the butterfly. They take pictures of the butterfly. They speak scriptures of the butterfly, but label a nuisance, we that couldn't fly. They say that eye is the window to the soul. So if you really look close, you can see the caterpillar's pain in the eyes on the butterfly's wings. It stings. So strange is change. So great is love. Love is my cocoon. Change is not a contemporary art, nor is it a recent trend. For the butterfly has been from the era Eocene, so for 50 million years, it's been standing as a proof that change is real, that change will come. So I say cocoon to the sky, for the butterfly is proof that the old me can die, so that the true me may live. So now the wingless has wings, but it took a while. Metamorphosis, it took a trial, it took a hug, it took a kiss, it took a smile. But let the truth be told that this caterpillar was a butterfly all the while, just in need of that cocoon. Thank you. You see, today I stand before you as a butterfly, yeah? I hope I look pretty like a butterfly too. But I stand before you as a butterfly today, and I assure you that wasn't always the case, But after receiving incubation, love, inspiration, I've been able to leave behind my caterpillar state, and today I'm going to attempt to summarize how I went from crawling to flying, And I'm a firm believer that just because you may be crawling at the moment, it doesn't mean that you can't fly tomorrow. And I think the best way to summarize my journey thus far is to answer a question. And that question is, why did I join a gang? Why do people join gangs? It's a question that's thrown at me a lot of times, you know, and I always give a politically correct answer. I'll say, oh, yeah, there's social issues, and yeah, there's economical factors, you know, and, you know, emotional deficiencies, and all of these answers are true. And they have parts of the truth, overall truth, but in this tapestry of an answer, I believe that the most potent strand is the fact that I had ambition. I was ambitious. That is why I became a gang member. That is why I became a leader in the gang. That is why I became one of the most recognizable, the most popular gang members in London. And it wasn't always my ambition to be a gang member. I started off wanting to be a veterinary surgeon, you know. I used to watch RSPCA with my dad all of the time, and I was just fascinated. I love animals. I also then wanted to be an astronaut. You know, I was like, wow, to go to space, that is something else, totally. Then I thought, you know what, I'm gonna be a pilot, you know, because there's air stewardesses, you know, there's good pay and they get to wear a uniform. So I said, I'm gonna be a pilot. Then that went out the window, and then something odd happened when I was about 11. And I realized that even though I was excelling in school, it wasn't serving me. My mum was a teacher. Her mum was a teacher. Academics was something that was esteemed in my household. It was exalted even. And I thrived in it, and I took to it very well. I would read my brother's literature, and he was 4 years my senior, and I would go through it faster than he could, you know, and due to our UK schooling system, they labeled me a genius because I was able to take information and regurgitate it, and I quite enjoyed that. And I would be called to do extension papers. I'll have to stay behind after school to do further maths and further science because I wasn't challenged during the day. And even so, none of this was serving me in my community. On my inner city estate, an estate in Brixton in south of London, it was not serving me. So I began to look outside of the parameters of my upbringing, and I started to see that they were some that was enjoying the splendors of peace, you know, not being scared coming to and from school. There were some that had a level of financial freedom, you know, and they were the drug dealers. There were those that looked like they had a sense of belonging and purpose, you know, and those were the gang leaders. And I had a new ambition. And I was like, wow, one day I will be a gang member, you know. And like any sort of vision, it took a due diligence. So every single day I had to take a step in that direction. And because I've brought up in a household that shuns criminality, any forms of gangsterism, I don't even hear my parents swear. So for me to then step so far out of my comfort zone and what I'm used to, it took quite a lot of guts on my behalf, you know? And every day I had to put on a mask. I'll leave the house, put on this mask, come home, take it off, because home is safety. Go out again, put on the mask, come home, take it off. And then one day I realized I couldn't take off this mask. It was a bit like the Jim Carrey film. You know, the mask, it just weren't coming off. You know, and I realized that I had actually become this person. This persona was now intertwined with me, and I couldn't separate Locks was my alias then. I couldn't separate Locks from Carl. They almost became one of the same people. And we all hear the headlines and we see different things and we have an idea in our minds of what gang members in South London get up to. But to kind of give you a bit more insight so you can know where I'm coming from, is one of my closest friends, he was murdered by my side when we were 15. And he was stabbed in the heart in Kennerton. And the blood left his body at such a rate it propelled his t-shirt in the air. It's an image that won't leave me. And following that, I was cut on my face, not in the same incident, a different incident. I was also stabbed in my chest. I've been butchered in my back. I've been shot at more times than I've had birthday parties. And I always introduce myself as the should be dead usually. And if I go through the history, you'll know why, but we haven't got time for that right now. But what I am trying to get across is the reality of what I was involved in. It was severe. And in order to live a life in such a way, you have to be totally entrenched. The idea of it has to become your ideology. You have to own it. And gangsterism was my way of life. It was as normal for me as a city boy putting on the tie and grabbing a briefcase and going into the city. You know, I used to carry a firearm to the chicken shop, a .45 caliber gun to go maybe a quarter mile from my home to the chicken shop. You know, and I was very, very fortunate because I bumped into a lovely woman called Pastor Mimi, and she ended up opening her home to us. And her son was also a right-hand man, my right-hand man in the gang that we were in. So he was just as entrenched in gangsterism as I was. So she began to engage me because she couldn't reach her son directly. And her home became organically an informal therapeutic community gang rehabilitation center. Yeah. And basically, we all moved in. And it wasn't just a moving in, but what was significant is that a new ambition moved into our lives. And that was that we wanted to get out of the life that we were in. You know, she convinced us that we were more than gang members. You know, so we all started going towards this goal collectively. And if someone else had a revelation one day that you may not have received, being in that hub together, you were able to cross-pollinate each other. So then we began to infect each other with this ambition, and it began to grow, and it began to just allow us to have the confidence to say no to the gang that we were in and to denounce gangsterism totally. And a few years later, I was able to say that I am not a part of a gang. I usually do it by the last time I held a firearm, and that was about 4.5 years ago. So right now I stand before you reformed. I don't even know how a man can have the capacity to inflict harm on another man in a way of stabbing or the thing for me is grotesque at the moment, but it wasn't always the case. So it's just where your head is. And this led me now to, now that I'm reformed, I'm not free still. Because now I have the burden, carrying the information that it is possible to change your life around. You know, you can be entrenched, you can be at one end of the polar spectrum, and yet you can journey to the other end where you're able to be that butterfly and to fly. So now I'm trying to provide cocoons for all the butterflies in the waiting. And this cocoon is going to be this country's first therapeutic community gang rehabilitation center, the formal kind. You know, it's basically mimicking what I underwent in Pastor Mimi's home, you know, and providing it in a way where young men can hold on to it and own it. And in order for this to be effective, I also want to help change policy in this country. Right now, we have a policy called a DRO, which is a drug referral order. And that gives the judge the power to either send someone that has been brought before them due to a crime connected to their addiction to either be incarcerated, which we now know is crime colleges, because it's proven that they get more addictions when they go in than what they had before, or he can send them to be rehabilitated, which is more cost effective, it's cheaper, and in the long term, it's better for society and for the individual. So I want to help establish in this country a GRO, which is a gang referral order. It doesn't exist at the moment, but I'm very hopeful that when many hear the message that you have heard today, they will also believe and also want to help. Thank you for listening.
New to Beats Behind Bars at the weekend, we go backstage to find out how some of the top DJs and producers make their tracks. So tune in on Saturday and Sunday at 10 and 4 for your Beats Behind Bars Backstage Pass. Get your pens at the ready because it's time to go over to Ryan now for another episode of Minute Maths.
Hello and welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed episode of Minute Maths with me, it's Ryan. It's your friendly Res 4 maths tutor. Now last week I set you, to be honest, it was quite a difficult challenge. I struggled, people I know struggled. It was basically, you've got a 1 and 4 sevens, and you're able to add, you're able to subtract, multiply and divide. And I said to you, can you find a way of making 100? It was difficult, we found a way. Have a look at this and I'll show you. So the first thing you need to do is you need to add two sevens together. So 7 add 7 gives you 14. Now, if you do 1 divided by 7 gives you 0.14285. Add that to the remaining 7, gives you 7.14285. Multiply the two together, and as near as makes no difference, you get the answer 100. Now, the eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that, unfortunately, this week I'm sporting a little bit of an injury. I have indeed broken my little finger. I'd like to say it was some kind of really exciting, dramatic story as to why. It was, I fell over in my bathroom. Don't give me too much sympathy, I'm really. Anyway, on to this week. Fractions again. Last week I showed you how to calculate a fraction of a number if the numerator, which is the number on the top of the fraction, was 1. Well, how do we calculate a fraction of a number if the numerator is something other than 1, I hear you ask? Well, luckily I'm here and I'm going to show you. Take a look at this. So in this example we've got finding 3/4 of 20. Now the first step is exactly the same. You still take your number and you divide it by the denominator, the number on the bottom of the fraction. So it's 20 divided by 4, which gives you 5. There's one more step for this one though. You've now got to multiply that number by the numerator. Multiply that number by the top number of the fraction, which in this case is 3. So you do 5 times 3, which gives you 15. Okay? Couldn't be simpler than that. The first step is still the same. Divide by the denominator, and then you simply multiply by the numerator. Easy as that. Doesn't matter what it is, the principles are the same. This week's challenge, slightly different. I'm going to read your mind through your television screens. This is what I want you to do. I want you to think of a number between 1 and 10. Don't tell me, okay? Keep it to yourself, keep it in your head. So think of a number between 1 and 10. What I want you to do now, I want you to double that number, okay? So double that number. Now what I want you to do, I want you to add 6. Okay, so you've doubled the number and you've added 6. Now what I want you to do is I want you to halve that number. And finally, take away the original number that you started with. Okay? Next week, start of next week's episode, I guarantee I'll be able to read your mind and tell you what number you are left with. Don't forget, 5/4 of all people can't do fractions. Just have a look about that. This has been Minute Maths. I've been Ryan. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week.
Up next on Wayout TV, it's more life lessons from the School of Life.
Without us perhaps quite noticing, much of what we place our hopes in will be ready for us in a very long time indeed, in months or even decades from now, if ever. The successful completion of a novel, a sufficient sum of money to buy a house or begin a new career, the discovery of a suitable partner, a move to another country. In the list of our most intensely felt hopes, few entries stand to come to fruition this season or next, let alone by tonight. But occasionally, life places us in a situation where our normal, long-range, hopeful way of thinking grows impossible. Imagine you've had a car accident, a very bad one. For weeks, it seemed like you might not make it at all. Now you're out of a coma and back home, but you still have multiple broken bones, serious bruises, and constant migraine. It's unclear from here when you'll be going back to work, or whether you ever will. When someone asks how things are, one answer seems to fit above all. We're taking it one day at a time. Or imagine that a person is 89, mentally agile, but very slow on their feet and often in pain. They had a fall last month and their left knee is badly arthritic. Yesterday they did some gardening. Today they may go to the shops for the first time in a while. You ask their carer how they are. We're taking it one day at a time. Or you're a new parent. It was a very difficult birth. The baby had jaundice and required a blood transfusion. And now, finally, mother and child are home. The baby cries a lot in the night and has to take some medicines that aggravate the stomach. But last night was good enough, and hopefully today, if the weather holds, there's a chance of taking a trip to the park to see the daffodils. How's it all going? We're taking it one day at a time. These may be extreme scenarios, and a natural impulse is to hope that we will never encounter them, but they contain valuable teachings for anyone with a tendency to ignore their own advantages, that is, for all of us. One day at a time thinking reminds us that in many cases our greatest enemy is that otherwise critical nectar, hope, and the perplexing emotion it tends to bring with it, impatience. By limiting our horizons to tonight, we're girding ourselves for the long haul and remembering that an improvement may best be achieved when we manage not to await it too ardently. Our most productive mood may be a quiet melancholy with which we can ward off the temptations of rage or mania and fully imbibe the moderate steadfastness required to do fiddly things, write a book, bring up a child, repair a marriage, or work through a mental breakdown. Taking it day by day means reducing the degree of control we expect to be able to bring to bear on the uncertain future. It means recognizing that we have no serious capacity to exercise our will on a span of years, and should not therefore disdain a chance to secure one or two minor wins in the hours ahead of us. We should, from a new perspective, count ourselves immensely grateful if by nightfall there have been no further arguments and no more seizures, if the rain has let off and we've found one or two interesting pages to read. As life as a whole grows more complicated, we can remember to unclench and smile a little along the way, rather than jealously husbanding our reserves of joy for a finale somewhere in the nebulous distance. Given the scale of what we're up against, knowing that perfection may never occur and that far worse may be coming our way, we can stoop to accept with fresh gratitude a few of the minor gifts that are already within our grasp. We might look with fresh energy at a cloud, a duck, a butterfly, or a flower. At 22, we might scoff at such suggestions, for there seem so many larger, grander things to hope for than these evanescent manifestations of nature, romantic love, career fulfillment, or big political change. But with time, almost all one's more revolutionary aspirations tend to take a hit, perhaps a very large hit. One encounters some of the intractable problems of intimate relationships. One suffers the gap between one's professional hopes and the available realities. One has a chance to observe how slowly and fitfully the world ever alters in a positive direction. One is fully inducted to the extent of human wickedness and folly, and to one's own eccentricity, selfishness and madness. And so natural beauty may take on a different hue, no longer a petty distraction from a mighty destiny, no longer an insult to ambition, but a genuine pleasure amidst a litany of troubles, an invitation to bracket anxieties and keep self-criticism at bay, a small resting place for hope in a sea of disappointment, a proper consolation for which one is finally ready on an afternoon walk to be appropriately grateful. Vincent van Gogh was admitted to the Saint-Paul mental asylum in Saint-Rémy in southern France in May of 1889, having lost his mind and tried to sever his ear. At the start of his stay, he mostly lay in bed in the dark. After a few months, he grew a little stronger and was able to go out into the garden. And it was here that he noticed, in a legendary act of concentrated aesthetic absorption, the gnarled roots of a southern pine, the blossom on an apple tree, a caterpillar on its way across a leaf, and, most famously, the bloom of a succession of purple irises. In his hands, these became like the totemic symbols of a new religion, oriented towards a celebration of the transcendent beauty of the everyday. His vase with irises is no sentimental study of a common flower. It is the work of a pivotal figure in Western culture, struggling to make it to the end of the day without doing himself in, and clinging on very tightly indeed, with the hands of a genius, to a reason to live. It's normal enough to hold out for all that we want. Why would we celebrate hobbling when we want to run? Why accept friendship when we crave passion? But if we reach the end of the day and no one has died, no further limbs have broken, a few lines have been written, and one or two encouraging and pleasant things have been said, then that is already an achievement worthy of a place at the altar of sanity. How natural and tempting to put one's faith in the bountifulness of the years. But how much wiser it might be to bring all one's faculties of appreciation and love to bear on that most modest and most easily dismissed of increments, the day already in hand.
Next up on Wayout TV is more from the geniuses at TED.
If you're ever walking down the street and come across an oddly stretched out image, like this, you'll have an opportunity to see something remarkable, but only if you stand in exactly the right spot. That happens because these works employ a technique called anamorphosis. Anamorphosis is a special case of perspective art, where artists represent realistic three-dimensional views on two-dimensional surfaces. Though it's common today, this kind of perspective drawing has only been around since the Italian Renaissance. Ancient art often showed all figures on the same plane, varying in size by symbolic importance. Classical Greek and Roman artists realized they could make objects seem further by drawing them smaller, but many early attempts at perspective were inconsistent or incorrect. In 15th century Florence, artists realized the illusion of perspective could be achieved with higher degrees of sophistication by applying mathematical principles. In 1485, Leonardo da Vinci manipulated the mathematics to create the first known anamorphic drawing. A number of other artists later picked up the technique, including Hans Holbein in The Ambassadors. This painting features a distorted shape that forms into a skull as the viewer approaches from the side. In order to understand how artists achieve that effect, we first have to understand how perspective drawings work in general. Imagine looking out a window. light bounces off objects and into your eye, intersecting the window along the way. Now imagine you could paint the image you see directly onto the window while standing still and keeping only one eye open. The result would be nearly indistinguishable from the actual view, with your brain adding depth to the 2D picture, but only from that one spot. Standing even just a bit off to the side would make the drawing lose its 3D effect. Artists understand that a perspective drawing is just a projection onto a 2D plane. This allows them to use math to come up with basic rules of perspective that allow them to draw without a window. One is that parallel lines, like these, can only be drawn as parallel if they're parallel to the plane of the canvas. Otherwise, they need to be drawn converging to a common point, known as the vanishing point. So that's a standard perspective drawing. With an anamorphic drawing, like the ambassadors, directly facing the canvas makes the image look stretched and distorted. But put your eye in exactly the right spot, way off to the side, and the skull materializes. Going back to the window analogy, it's as if the artist painted onto a window positioned at an angle, instead of straight on. Though that's not how Renaissance artists actually created anamorphic drawings. Typically, they draw a normal image onto one surface, then use a light, a grid, or even strings to project it onto a canvas at an angle. Now let's say you want to make an anamorphic sidewalk drawing. In this case, you want to create the illusion that a 3D image has been added seamlessly into an existing scene. You can first put a window in front of the sidewalk and draw what you want to add onto the window. It should be in the same perspective as the rest of the scene, which might require the use of those basic rules of perspective. Once the drawing's complete, you can use a projector placed where your eye was to project your drawing down onto the sidewalk, then chalk over it. The sidewalk drawing and the drawing on the window will be nearly indistinguishable from that point of view. So viewers' brains will again be tricked into believing that the drawing on the ground is three-dimensional. And you don't have to project onto a flat surface to create this illusion. You can project onto multiple surfaces, or assemble a jumble of objects that, from the right point of view, appears to be something else entirely. All over the planet, you can find solid surfaces giving way to strange, wonderful, or terrifying visions. From your sidewalk to your computer screen, these are just some of the ways that math and perspective can open up whole new worlds.
There's a lot of fake news about flu and the flu vaccine, so we want to give you the facts. Flu can be life-threatening, and every year, thousands of people are hospitalised in Scotland. Children and those with health conditions like diabetes, heart or breathing problems are especially at risk, even if they seem fit and well. The vaccine doesn't give you flu. In fact, it's the safest, most effective way to help protect yourself.
Hello, I'm Henry from Brighton Samaritans. What I've noticed from my time at Samaritans is that often men don't like to talk about their feelings. So what I do with my friends and family is that I ask them how they're feeling. And asking that simple question helps them to open up, and if you just give them the space and listen to them and let them talk about how they're feeling, hopefully this will help in some way.
And now on Wayout TV, the stories and issues affecting communities across Britain today. Brought to you in association with Together TV. It's UK Life.
Everyone knows that feeling. When life gets on top of us. All over the country, millions of us face challenges to our mental health. At all ages, at all intensities, and for all sorts of reasons. We feel stressed, low, anxious, or have trouble sleeping. Me, you,
your brother, your mother, your friend, colleague, or your neighbour. Waiting, wondering, hoping, hurting. We think there's nothing to be done, nothing we can do about it.
But that is so wrong. There are things we can do. From today, there's a new way to help turn things around. Every Mind Matters will show you simple ways to look after your mental health.
It'll get you started with a free online plan designed to help you deal with stress, boost your mood, improve your sleep, and feel more in control.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. We're in this together.
We can all benefit from taking simple steps to look after ourselves
and help those around us.
Because good mental health
makes such a difference.
Every mind matters.
So let's do it.
Find your way to better mental health. Search Every Mind Matters to get your personal plan.
Come on.